right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first event in our Australia's Amazing Island series. So this live event series is brought to you by Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and the Roots and Shoots Australia Resource Box for Schools program. Roots and Shoots Australia is an initiative of the Jane Goodall Institute Australia. Roots and Shoots Australia helps mentor and empower young people to help make a difference for animals, people, and our environment. So, if you have not visited the website before, please take a few moments to do so. I'll share the link right here with you, and you can sign up for the program. As well, you can find them on Facebook to find all the latest news, find your local group, and of course, keep up to date. So I will post that link up here right now. So my name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for the next few weeks as we visit 5 of Australia's amazing islands. And we're starting off today with Christmas Island, which I think is going to really be a treat. So I'm from an organization called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We bring science, adventure, exploration, and conservation live into classrooms across North America and around the world. On any given month, we can be running 40, 50, even 60 live events for classrooms to join, to meet scientists, explorers, and conservationists from all over the world. In fact, we've worked with scientists and explorers in over 95 countries around the world, and we're going to start doing more live events for Australia in the very near future. So do check out our website, exploringbytheseat.com, to see everything that we do have coming up. All right, let's get to the main event. I'm excited to have Jahna Luke joining us. She is the Tourism Marketing Manager for Christmas Island Tourism, which makes her the perfect person to take us on a tour of the wonders of Christmas Island, from the crab migration to the incredible bird life. I got a little sneak peek of her presentation, and let me tell you, it looks like one amazing, beautiful place. So let's bring her in live with us right now from Western Australia. Hey, Jahna, how are we doing today?
Hi, good, thanks, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. It is so great to have you joining us live. We have groups signed up and joining us from across Australia today. If you are joining us, do take a few moments and shoot some hellos into the text. Just a few groups we have saying hi here from Sydney, New South Wales, from Griffith, from Port Hedland, from Sydney, where else? From Northern New South Wales, Perth, Western Australia, Sale, Victoria, Hillsborough, Queensland. Lots of amazing groups joining us. Keep saying hello and get your questions ready. Jahna, I think I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. We're going to have a fun Kahoot quiz with the classrooms, and then we'll turn them loose with a little Q&A action. How does that sound?
Sounds great to me. So I'll get started then. We've got a lot to get through while we talk about Christmas Island. Now, I will just share my screen. I think you should be... Sorry. Okay, there we go. So as Joe said, my name is Jahna Luke. I'm from the Christmas Island Tourism Association. Massive thanks to Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots for having us today, and a huge thank you to you guys for joining us. I'm thrilled to be able to share Christmas Island with you and why it's such a unique and remarkable part of the planet. So we'll get started with a quick video just to give you a brief overview of what Christmas Island is all about. So as you can see, Christmas Island is all about the nature and the culture. Now, where on earth is Christmas Island? So Christmas Island is an external territory of Australia. You can see on the map, we're actually located much closer to Java, Indonesia. The island was actually named Christmas Island on Christmas Day in 1643 by Captain William Miners on a passing East Indian trading ship. It wasn't for some 200 plus years after that, when in the 1880s, the island became inhabited. So fast forward all the way to 1958, Christmas Island became an external territory of Australia and of course the Cocos-Keeling Islands as well. So we're about 2,600 kilometres northwest of Perth in Western Australia, so about a 3.5-hour flight from mainland Australia. So the island covers about 135 square kilometres. It's actually the tip of an ancient volcano that's risen from the sea over millions and millions of years. The tip of the island, the highest point on the island, is about 385 metres above sea level. So about 2,000 residents call Christmas Island home. Most of our community are of Malay and Chinese descent. And that is, of course, reflected in our festivities, our celebrations, our food offerings, and etc. Now, 2/3 of Christmas Island is actually Commonwealth National Park. You can see all of the dark green on the island is National Park, so obviously takes up a big part of the island. But the entire island is home to species that are found nowhere else on the planet. So we have crabs, we have birds, we have reptiles, we have marine species, they're found absolutely nowhere else. So a very unique environment. Now, probably the most famous of the species on Christmas Island is the Christmas Island red crab. Over 100 million of these bright red land-based crustaceans live on Christmas Island. Again, these crabs are found nowhere else on the planet. So very unique to Christmas Island. So every year, around November, December, the red crabs make their way from the jungle down to the sea where they mate and spawn. Now, as you can imagine, it's quite hard to get around the island at this time of the year. So we have lots of things in place to keep these crabs protected. Because they are found nowhere else, we have a massive responsibility to protect and respect these guys into the future. So we have quite a few different ways to make sure that we look after our red crabs. So at this time of year, it's imperative that everybody has a rake in their car. So roads that are open may still have crabs on them. So residents and visitors need to hop out of the car and rake the road clean before they drive through. Some of the other ways that we keep our red crabs safe, we have road closures. So roads that have a massive amount of crab activity are closed at certain times during the crab migration. Again, just to make sure that they are safe on their way to the ocean. We have signs reminding people to slow down and drive around, and that's for all of our crab species on the island, just to be mindful. And of course, we have the road closures. So you can see on that sign there that several of those roads are closed during the crab migration, and they open and close depending on what crab activity is doing on each day. So crabs rule here on Christmas Island. It's something that we take very, very seriously. We also have what we believe is the world's first Crabbridge, world's only Crabbridge. So this road needs to remain open in the migration. So Parks Australia designed and installed a Crabbridge. So our red crabs are funneled from the jungle in this area along the roadside and up the Crabbridge. So they climb up the bridge, they go over the top, down the other side, and off they go on their way down to the ocean. And then again, of course, on the way back on their return migration too. So quite unique again. We also have what we believe is to be the only crabmobile. Chris Bray from Swell Lodge, his eco lodge is situated in the heart of Christmas Island National Park. He needs to be able to access his lodge all year. So he's developed these crab fenders that move crabs safely off the road so that he can make his way down to his lodge. You can just see in that little video there, they just gently move the crabs onwards. And we know that Swell Lodge are having 100% success rate with keeping the crabs safe on their way down the road and through the jungle down to their lodge. So again, quite a unique experience. Now, when the crabs get down to the ocean, they mate, and once they've mated, the males go back to the jungle. The ladies over the next couple of weeks brood up to 100,000 eggs each. Then on the turn of the tide, on spawning morning, just before sunup, the ladies all congregate on the beaches surrounding Christmas Island, where they shimmy and shake and deliver their 100,000 eggs each into the ocean. An absolutely fascinating thing to see. So now after that, the ladies make their way back to the jungle. So by now, the red crabs, male and females, have returned to the jungle. Now these little crabs, once those eggs hit the water, they hatch. For the next 3 weeks, they float out to sea. We're not entirely sure what they do out there, but in 3 weeks' time, they return to Christmas Island as tiny, weeny, teeny baby crabs. So bearing in mind, as I said before, these guys are actually land crabs. They're not ocean crabs or marine crabs. So once they return to the island from that day forth, they are land crabs, which is quite fascinating, really. Now, the island turns absolutely red here with crabs returning. So this is one of our beaches, Waterfall Bay, and it would be safe to say that there is 1 trillion or more trillions of red crabs on that beach as they make their way from the ocean onto the island and back up towards the jungle. Now, it's not only beaches that turn red, our streets turn red, our houses, our shops, these babies are everywhere, and you can just see how tiny they are. It's a little bubby sitting amongst the crabs, which is everyday life on Christmas Island. And you can see there in the kampong, which is the Malay settlement at Flying Fish Cove, is heavily impacted by the return of the baby crabs. Now, we talked briefly about what we're doing to keep the big crabs safe. We have road closures, we have crab bridges, we have underpasses, we have a whole range of ways to keep them safe. That's not going to work for these baby crabs. So what do? We blow them off the road. So when the crabs are returning, park rangers, shire rangers, and the community of Christmas Island, our visitors, all assist to get these guys across the road safely. So we blow them gently across the road. They're way, way, way too small for a broom or for a rake. So they get gently blown across the road so that cars can continue along their way and the crabs can make their way to the jungle safely. So the whole process is quite fascinating, and it generally goes for more than a couple of months from the time that the crabs make their downward migration to the time that the babies are back. And in the jungle, we're talking several weeks. Now, we talked about red crabs. We have several species of crabs on Christmas Island. It's often referred to as the kingdom of the crab. Now, these guys are called coconut crabs elsewhere in the world, but we call them robber crabs on Christmas Island. They have a habit of taking off with anything shiny or actually anything at all. Now, although they're found on other islands throughout the Pacific and in other places, because our crabs are protected and respected here on Christmas Island, we actually have the healthiest population of these guys on the planet. Now, that photo on the left was taken a couple of years ago. It went absolutely viral. It hit news stations all around the world. Some friends of ours were having a barbecue in the jungle, lit the barbecue, put their meat on, and these guys just came from everywhere. They were looking for a free feed. So they're harmless creatures. They're very slow moving. They're not aggressive. So although it looks a little bit confronting and perhaps scary to some, it's actually an amazing, amazing experience. And, you don't need to be frightened of these crabs in the jungle. They are just absolutely terrific animals. So we've talked about the crabs now. We'll talk a little bit about the birds. So Christmas Island has spectacular bird life. We actually have 13 endemic species of birds that are found nowhere else. And this is the Abbott's booby, probably one of the most spectacular birds that we have on Christmas Island. So they're the biggest of the booby species. And on the Christmas Island is the last nesting habitat for these guys. So again, we have a huge responsibility to respect and protect them, to make sure they're around for future generations. Lots of these guys too, the brown boobies, absolute little characters, beautiful birds. And again, they are found in other places in the world, but we do have a very healthy population on Christmas Island. They actually look like they're straight out of a cartoon. They're beautiful birds. We have several other seabirds. Christmas Island is sometimes referred to as the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean because of the unique wildlife that we have, and much of it is similar to the Galapagos. So this is a frigate bird. We have a Christmas Island frigate that is only on Christmas Island, and then we have 2 other species that are found elsewhere also. So terrific bird watching experiences on Christmas Island. These birds have no real natural predators, so they're not really frightened of anything. So it is very much an up close and personal experience with the wildlife on Christmas Island. Now, we've talked a fair bit about what happens on land. Christmas Island is surrounded by a fringing reef that drops kilometres off into the Java Trench. So I'll just show you a quick little video of what you may expect to see underwater on Christmas Island. So as you can see, our oceans are rich with marine life. We have a very healthy coral, amazing number of marine species, warm, clear waters, visibility on an average day is sort of up to 40 metres and about between 27 and 30 degrees all year round. So terrific opportunities for scuba diving, for snorkeling. It really is a natural wonder. Caves, caverns, everything for everyone as far as underwater exploring goes. Now, probably everyone's favourite fish in the sea is the whale shark. So whale sharks visit Christmas Island between November and April each year, which is our wet season, also coincides with the red crab migration. So some scientists believe that that's why the whale sharks come in at that time of the year, is for the baby crabs, so the spawning. So although we do have marine operators that can take you out to see the whale sharks, it's not sort of a guaranteed experience like it is other places in Australia and in the world. Just because we are such a tiny and remote destination, we don't have spotter planes and that sort of thing. But our operators are very good at finding them. So there's a very good chance if you visit at that time of year, you'll encounter a whale shark. Well, I think that's time for me. Now, Jo did say that we have a little quiz now, which I'm really looking forward to. And then I'd love plenty of questions also. So thanks very much, and we'll go back to Jo.
All right. Jahna, amazing. Thank you so much for taking us into Christmas Island. I've always thought about the crab migration, but I've never thought about that many small baby crabs later in the year. That's absolutely incredible. And I can see how that would definitely be a tricky thing to do to kind of keep them safe and corral them, keep them off the roads and things like that. Absolutely amazing.
It certainly is. It's absolutely fascinating. In the last few years, we've had massive baby returns. So we have some quiet years where for some reason, and we don't know why, we don't receive as many, but the last few years have been spectacular.
All right. Well, before we get to our Q&A action, we are going to have a little Kahoot quiz and see how well our students were paying attention today. So if you would like to find this Kahoot quiz, you need to head to this website, kahoot.it. Once you're there, it's going to ask you for a special PIN number, and I'm going to share that PIN number on the screen right now, and I will tell you a little bit more about how the Kahoot is going to work as well. So you should see that number there, 452-6958. You could also scan that QR code if you have a mobile device. If you're joining from home or you have one-to-one technology in your classroom, students can join right from their own device. If you're in a classroom, you can also put it at the front board and the students can shout out the correct answers. So we'll give a few moments to get a few players in here with us. So Kahoot.it, and then it's going to ask you for this PIN number, 4526958. And then there are 5 questions today. There's some true and false, and then there are some multiple choice questions. So they're timed questions. If you get the answer right, you get some points. If you get the answer right quickly, you get even more points. If you get the answer wrong, but you do it really fast, well, we got nothing for you. You got to get that right answer, and you have to get it in as quickly as you can to get those extra points. So I see we have some students who've joined us already. We'll give it maybe another 10 seconds, and then we'll get things started. I know this might be the first time many of these groups have used Kahoot. So just a heads up, we're going to have Kahoot quizzes on the other 4 island events as well. And you'll join the same way, Kahoot.it. And then I'll share a special PIN number with you so you can join in with us. So here we go. I'm going to take the quiz live right now, and we're going to see who comes out on top. So true and false to start us off. Christmas Island is closer to Java, Indonesia than Australia. Is that true, or was that false? All right, we've got 5 more seconds to get your answer locked in. All right, couldn't fool this group. Most went with true. Jahna, remind us about how far from Perth did you say Christmas Island was?
It's about a 3.5-hour flight. So, and for reference, it's only about a 40-minute flight to Java. So,
okay.
Yeah. So an awful lot closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So Clever Pelican is in the lead, but everything is close. Let's see what happens with our next question. We're going to have a multiple choice. How much of Christmas Island is protected park area? Was it a half of the island? Was it a quarter? Was it 2/3? Or was all of the island protected park area? Answers are starting to come in. I gave a little extra time for the multiple choice questions to make sure everyone gets a chance to read them, because there is a slight delay on YouTube of a few seconds. You've got 5 more seconds to get your answer in. Here we go. All right. A little bit of a split, but most went with 2/3. Good job, crew. Clever Pelican still holding down the lead, but we do have a lot of movement. Let's jump into our next question. About how many red crabs are found on Christmas Island? Was it 1 million? Was it 100 million? Was it about 40 million? Or was it about 25 million red crabs? Got 5 more seconds to get that answer in. All right. Jahna, this crew is paying attention. Most went with 100 million, which is awesome. And then during most of the year, you find them in the forest. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So because there are so many crabs on Christmas Island, you will see them all year round, but you will see them in numbers during their migration, so from November, December. And I'll just quickly say also that until earlier this year, late last year, it was estimated that there was only around 50 million red crabs on the island. A recent island-wide survey has determined that there are, in fact, over 100 million due to some pest control and also the things that we talked about with the human beings keeping the crabs safe as well.
All right. Good conservation work in action. Very cool. We've had a shift in the leaderboard. Amiable Alpaca has taken the lead, but we still have 2 more questions. Anything can happen. Which isn't a way that the red crabs are protected on Christmas Island? And actually, I meant to change this. So let's change this to which is a way. Is it rakes in people's cars? Is it road closures? Is it the world's only Crabbridge? Or are all of the above ways that the crabs are protected? So ignore the question. I thought I saved it, but it doesn't look like I did. Which is a way that crabs are protected on Christmas Island is the way that should be read. We've got a couple more seconds. Again, people went with all of the above. Good job, crew. We've got one more question to finish things off. Funny Quail has taken the lead, and we're going to wrap up with a true and false question. Whale sharks. Is it true or false that they are the largest fish in the world? So true or false, are whale sharks the largest fish in the world? John, have you been lucky enough to be in the water with the whale sharks?
Oh, countless times. It's the most amazing experience and one that you just never, ever get sick of. So I love nothing more than jumping in with them.
Amazing. So yes, it is true. They are the largest fish in the world. They can be as big as a school bus, up to 60 feet. That's absolutely incredible. And they're so big, but they eat tiny, tiny, tiny zooplankton, plankton in the water. And yeah, it makes sense that they're there looking for the crabs when the larvae are in the water. Very cool. So Brave Bee is in third place, the Radiant Elk in second, and the Golden Lizard sneaking in at the very end to take first place. Good job, everybody, and thanks so much for playing our Kahoot today. I'm going to kill this background music, and we are going to switch gears to a little Q&A action. So lots of questions already coming in the chat, but let's start picking a few of them here. So let's start off with the red crabs. So they live in the forest most of the year. Luna would like to know, why the beaches? Why do the females head down to the beaches?
Well, when we say beaches, they actually head down to the coastline. So that's where they have to spawn into the ocean. So they leave the jungle, they travel down to the coast, whether it be a cliff, be a beach, and that's where they mate with the male crabs, and then they deliver the baby crabs into the ocean. So that's all part of the migration and spawning process.
Yeah, and definitely if you have some time after this, those tuning in, look that up online and watch the way the crabs kind of dance in the water to kind of shake off those eggs. It's really, really cool to see them doing that. It's a very cool little dance that they have. Let's see. Afifa wants to know, so we learned about all the conservation work protecting the crabs. Are they harmful to the ecosystem in any way, being that there's so many of them?
No, they're actually not. They're actually a key species in our ecosystem. So they keep the jungle floor clean of leaf matter and that sort of thing. So they are very, very important in the Christmas Island ecosystem, which is obviously a big reason why they're protected, and there's huge conservation efforts to protect the crabs. So no, definitely not a pest in any way. Quite the opposite.
All right, excellent. I love these questions that are coming. There's so many good questions. Okay. Winnie is tuning in. Winnie would like to know about when we saw the coconut crabs. I think you called them robber crabs as well. We saw that they go after the coconuts. We saw them around the people as well. But Winnie would really like to know, would they pinch at all? Maybe if you picked one up.
They would certainly not try to pinch. If you picked one up, sometimes they've got very strong back legs. You can get squashed between the body of the crab and the back legs. I've never known anyone to be bitten by a robber crab. I think it wouldn't be much fun, to be very honest. They've got very, very strong pincers. The pincers can go through anything, metal, steel, it can go through anything. But generally, they are minding their own business. Unless if it's food, then then it's fair game. But I've never known of anyone to be harmed by a robber crab.
All right, fair enough. And I think probably just a good practice is, observe them, take pictures, but leave them alone. We don't need to pick them up.
Absolutely, that's with any wildlife. So absolutely.
All right, very cool. Great question. Okay, Mala's tuning in with us right now and would like to know, can you tell us a little bit more about what the whale sharks are eating in the waters around Christmas Island?
Yeah, so like you said, Joe, they eat small stuff. So plankton and coral spawn and baby red crabs, we think. It's quite fascinating. Often when you're diving with them, you can see them just going through like a great big vacuum cleaner, just taking all of the small particles in the ocean with them. So I'm assuming they do eat some sort of larger fish than the minute particles, but I've certainly witnessed them going through and just taking all of the small bits out of the ocean with them.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. You look at things like the whale sharks, the blue whales, basking sharks, these massive, massive marine creatures that eat some of the smallest things in the ocean. A lot of the small things, but it's still pretty amazing to see the size that they grow.
Yeah, I mean, they're such slow-moving creatures. I think that takes any fast-moving fish out of the game, sort of thing. So, yeah.
So another cool fact about whale sharks is the spots. We saw those beautiful spot patterns that they have. And that's one way that scientists can identify whale sharks, is because just like our fingerprints, every whale shark has a different spot pattern. And I know some scientists use a NASA program that maps the stars. They can use that to look at the side of a a whale shark and ID the whale shark from their spot pattern, which I think, again, is really, really cool to think about that. Very cool. All right, what do we have here? Okay, here's an interesting question. Before the red crabs were protected, you talked about cars and things like that. Were the red crabs being eaten?
They have never been eaten by humans. They're not edible. Even before they were protected, I think, they live in the jungle. They eat leaf matter. They're not an edible crab. So they have had big issues over many years now with an introduced crazy ant. The ant sprays poison into the eyes of the crab, which sends them blind. So they then can't find food. They die, and they're fair game for the crazy ants. But there are some controls in place that perhaps Australia are having massive success with, and something for you guys to have a look at if you're interested. One thing was the introduction of a micro wasp. They're having some success with that program, and also aerial baiting, where they are dropping baits from the sky, from helicopters, in the main migration paths to try and clear out the yellow crazy ants before the crabs go through, because we were losing many, many millions of crabs to the yellow crazy ants. But no, definitely not for human consumption. So.
All right, that is definitely a familiar story, a familiar conservation issue on many islands, is introduced invasive species. And I know that yellow crazy ants are an issue in the Seychelles. And that's, it's just a really hard thing to deal with something that's so small. And there's so many of them on the island to kind of find a solution that doesn't hurt any of the species that, the endemic species, the species that belong on those islands and are found nowhere else in the world.
Absolutely. And Parks Australia have done a terrific job. So I think, we're very lucky that our population of red crabs seems to be increasing again.
All right. So someone was asking why it was called Christmas Island. I think you touched on that. I think the person who discovered it named it on Christmas Day. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that was Captain William Miner's on a passing East Indian trading ship, but they didn't make landfall at that time. And it was more than 200 years later before the island was inhabited, which is quite interesting. I think, several parties had a go at it, but it's just such wild terrain, unforgiving terrain that, it wasn't until the late 1880s that the island was settled.
All right. So we saw that awesome video of the underwater life. As a diver myself, it really made me want to just pack up my gear and head to Christmas Island. Those temperatures and that visibility sound amazing. Tanya would like to know about the dolphin species. What are the different dolphin species that can be found around Christmas Island?
Yeah, so we only really see spinner dolphins on the island. We see lots of them. Most times you go out on your boat or go out on a charter, you'll see dolphins, pods of dolphins, but they're a small species of dolphin, even a lot smaller to the species on mainland Australia. So rather friendly. They'll hang around the boat, they'll follow the wake of the boat, and of course do the big spins in front of you. So they're a really cool little dolphin, but that's sort of it for the dolphin species.
All right, sticking in that same line of questioning, Charmaine would like to know about the sharks. We definitely saw the whale sharks. I think I saw another species in the video. What kind of sharks can you find in the waters?
Yes, we have a lot of reef sharks in the water. We don't have great white sharks, which Australia is renowned for, because the waters around Christmas Island are too warm. So that makes it a really safe diving and snorkeling environment. I think the odd tiger shark gets spotted around the island. Our dive operators do see schools of hammerhead sharks on occasions. But the day-to-day is mainly your black-tip, white-tip, your reef sharks. So, yeah.
All right. We've got year 5 hanging out with us at Griffith East Public School, and they would like to know a little bit more about the female crabs. About how many eggs are they carrying when they make their way down to the coast?
So when they make their way down to the coast, they don't carry any eggs. It's not until they get to the coast, they mate with the male crabs. And then they brood their eggs over the next couple of weeks. So once they've mated, the male crabs begin their return migration to the jungle, and the females brood up to 100,000 eggs each. So when you're talking tens of millions of female crabs times 100,000 babies each, the interesting thing is that, you know, when they deliver the eggs into the water, there is so many predators in the water. And I've been to countless spawning mornings where you watch the ladies do their shimmy and shake into the ocean. A lot of the baby crabs are immediately snapped up by fish, by sharks, by turtles, by whale sharks. So, you know, when you look at it like that, it's actually quite intriguing that billions and trillions of baby crabs go through all of that, spend 3 weeks out in the current off the coast of Christmas Island, and then still make their way back to land. And then, of course, they're not safe from there. The job's not over yet. They've still got to get back to the jungle, contending with reptiles and birds and all kinds of other issues for them. So, you know, when you look at it like that, it is actually fascinating that so many of these crabs make it to fully grown adults.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, totally understandable that the females, you know, lay so many eggs, because it is quite a journey. Things trying to eat you, currents, then things eating you on land. But yeah, from those photos, it looks like a large number do make it back, and then back, I guess, into the forests.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's see here. I don't think we touched on this. We learned about just now some of the things that will eat those red crabs, but what are the red crabs eating?
So they're mainly eating leaf litter off the jungle floor. They'll also eat each other as well. It's not unusual to see a dead crab with a whole heap of other dead crabs around it. They'll also eat the babies. There's some videos that are, again, very interesting of mum crabs just sitting there eating. Wouldn't be their babies, who knows whose babies they are, but they're baby red crabs just sitting there eating them. But, you know, when it's got the migration time, it's mainly leaf matter and fallen nuts and fruit and that sort of thing from the trees.
All right. So tourism is obviously a very important thing for the islands, right? I'm sure it's very important for the economy, people coming to see the crabs, people coming to dive. So Roxanne was curious about how many visitors make it to Christmas Island each year.
Now, we've had a very busy time since COVID. Pre-COVID, we were only receiving around 2,000 visitors a year to Christmas Island. Last year, we had about 3,500 visitors to Christmas Island, mainly Australians who we really are for the Australian market. We are overseas without going overseas. You know, like we have a Chinese and Malay community, and we have, you know, big festivities for Chinese New Year, and our food is very much inspired by Asia. So, yeah, we've had a massive year. But, yeah, generally we were having around 2,000 tourists a year.
Yeah. All right.
Not big numbers.
Yeah, definitely some pent-up demand, it sounds like, after COVID. People wanted to get out, and what a place to do it. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful, absolutely amazing. Well, I do remember, I do want to share the link. So if anybody wants to visit the website, learn a little bit more about Christmas Island, it's here, christmas.net.au. If you want to dive a little bit deeper after our event today. I think we can squeeze in a couple more questions before we wrap up for today. So let's see what we have here. So the male and female crabs, this is from a FIFA, would like to, they'd like to know, are they different? Are the males bigger, or is there something that kind of sets them apart from each other?
Yeah, the males are certainly a bigger crab than the female crabs as well. You can certainly pick the big bucks from the smaller female crabs. And I think it's around when they're sort of 3 or 4 years old that they start doing the migration down to the ocean. I think it seems that their first at least 1 or 2 migrations are a practice run. So they'll go down as, I guess you'd call them juvenile crabs, and they won't do the mating and spawning and that sort of thing, but they go down to learn what has to happen. So that's another fascinating process of the migration.
Yeah, very cool. A couple test migrations before the real deal. So you've got to tell us a little bit more about this bridge. I think that is so cool. You here in Canada, so I'm hosting from Canada, and we have kind of similar bridges for wildlife. We have tunnels that go under roadways that animals can use, or we have big overpasses with trees and such that animals can use. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Crabbridge?
Yeah, so the Crabbridge is a really cool design. So otherwise the crabs would go straight down to the road, across the road. But the road now is lined with like just little walls that are a few inches high that prevent the crab from climbing over them onto the road, and instead funnels them to the Crabbridge. So they can't actually access the road. Similarly, we have a lot of underpasses around the island. So for those of you in Australia, it's very much like a cattle grid. When I first moved to Christmas Island, I thought, why on earth is there cattle grids? We don't have any cattle. Didn't take very long to realise that it's to get crabs underneath the roads as well. So that's another way that we make sure that crabs make their migration safely.
All right, awesome. So we talked about it a little bit about invasive species. You talked about the ants that are an issue. Are there any other invasive species challenges that you're facing on the island right now?
Yeah, there has been a few over the years. There's been a cat eradication program happening for the last several years. Obviously, an introduced animal. They were doing a terrible amount of harm to the endemic bird life. Some of the booby bird species, they nest on the ground. And one stretch of coastline about 10 years ago, Parks Australia determined that 100% of the nesting babies were wiped out by cats. So there's been an eradication program going for several years now, which they're having a huge amount of success with. There's very few domestic cats left on Christmas Island. You can't bring cats or dogs. There's no dogs on the island. You can't bring cats or dogs to the island. And when these cats that are with us now pass on, they won't be replaced. So we have those, and we also have a giant centipede, which causes a little bit of havoc, and also a couple of introduced snake species too. So a little bit going on, but all of those things are being addressed, and there's several programs in place to eradicate the invasive species from Christmas Island.
All right. Well, a beautiful island it is, and really exciting to hear how much of it's protected, 2/3 protected, and the great conservation work that's happening as well to protect the species that are there. And to see the crab numbers go from 50 million to 100 million is pretty amazing, and pretty great evidence that the conservation is working. Very, very cool. So before we wrap up today, a few little reminders. I want to remind everybody that we are going live with our next event tomorrow at 1 o'clock AEST. We were going to explore Norfolk Island with my friend Stuart McPherson. I think you're really going to enjoy that event. If you haven't signed up yet, please do tonight, and I'll make sure that everybody gets the links that they need to come in and join us. Again, to share as well, to spend a little time, visit rootsandshoots.org.au to sign up and find more information about the program. And of course, you can find them on Facebook as well and join the community there. Follow along for updates and to find your local groups. A huge shout out to all the students, the homeschool groups, the classrooms that joined us today. Thank you for sending in such amazing questions. And Jahna, a huge shout out to you and the whole tourism team. Thank you so much for an awesome look at Christmas Island today. What an amazing Australian island.
Thank you so much for having us, Joe, and to all of you who tuned in today. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully one day we may even see some of you on Christmas Island.
All right, awesome. Well, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you all again tomorrow. For now, we're going to sign off. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.